Welcome to the Foxii Fighters Round Robin Week 3 pre-show. This week is our midpoint for the round-robin phase of the event, and for the rest of this phase, we'll have an additional fight in each group, totaling to an amazing 24 fights. And of course, I have my wonderful co-hosts Black Hat, Mr. Redman, and John here. So John, as we couldn't ask you last week, what did you think of the week? Were there any bots in particular that stood out to you?
Yeah, it's good to be back after missing last week. In terms of the robots that stood out to me, I'd say that the full body spinners, Lemon, Terabyte, they've been really showing off what it means to be a big spinner in this competition. They've been tearing their way through the competition. As of this point in time, both undefeated. A couple of other bots showing promise are Abyss and Wave Runner. They had some very control-heavy matches last week. And honestly, so far looking at this event, the balance between control and damage seems almost completely even, which is great to see. You've got bots like Soundwave and Super Esports tearing their opponents apart. Then there's other bots like Tough as Nails that are completely dominating their opponents in the arena through control. And of course, other robots like Counterpoint and Neola with a very nice combination and balance of both control and damage capability, which is great to see.
As week 3 marks the halfway point in the round-robin phase, this could be the make-or-break week for some of the bots currently at the bottom of their groups. Bots still looking for their first win, such as Akira, Leviathan, and Two-Headed Death Penguin, are desperate to make a statement and get some points on the board.
Yes, it does seem that this week will be decisive for some bots. Hopefully Leviathan will finally have some success today, having a very lackluster couple of weeks so far. Word in the pits is that the shuffler system has been improved once more, and the bot has been moving better than ever with the heaviest blade in the competition. Though it is a shame we haven't seen it dish out that massive hits we know, as it should be able to, so maybe this week we are different. As for Akira, we need to pray that doesn't end up getting stuck again, having getting stuck a few times, of course, in its matches. Garlic's luck hopefully will improve since it's been awful so far, and I'm hoping and praying that in this week coming forward, that this machine will prove itself finally, as it did in non-filmed competitions, as it will in Foxii Fighters.
And here it is, our schedule for the week. And as mentioned earlier, we are up from 20 to 24 fights. The highlight fights in each group to me are Terabyte versus Neola, as we see the two top Ruby group bots face off in the arena. Akira and Soundwave meeting in the Emerald group, as we see two of the biggest horizontal weapons in the event collide in what looks to be a very explosive matchup. The Sapphire group will see group leader Abyss face off against Jokester, a bot who is slowly starting to turn things around. And lastly, the Topaz group has two of the best bots in the entire field dueling, as Xiaoxilong and Lemon meet in the arena much later on tonight.
The match kicking off this week is looking to be a very interesting one. Top of the group, Neola faces off against fan favourite Counterpoint, in a match that could cement Counterpoint a spot in the top half of the group, or could really knock it down a rung or two and leave it at risk of elimination.
Honestly, I'm not sure what Rose's choice for configs in this match would be. I think personally I'd pick the drum spinner, as we saw it take on and beat fellow lifter Silly Goose in week 1, and Flipper to keep Counterpoint from self-righting and allow the drum some good opportunities to strike.
Yeah, so over the last 2 weeks we've seen 4 of the 5 configs from Neola, with the lifter being the one yet to debut in a match. Perhaps Rose will bring the lifter config out for any of the fights today? Who knows?
Well, I'm not sure we'll be seeing it in the fight against Counterpoint, because there's a bit of a rumour floating around the pits that it can't actually self-right, and, well, the lifter on Counterpoint could be used to invert it, and that could spell disaster.
It would be far better for her to choose configs that are either invertible or able to self-right. Although, if a mistake is made, it could cost her the fight. Let's have a look at who we all think will be winning this fight. All of us in favour of Neola.
Unfortunate for Counterpoint, but maybe 40 can prove us wrong. With the way Neola has been performing so far, I don't see much of a way where Counterpoint stands much of a chance.
Yeah, there's just too many of the possible Neola pairings for this fight that I see Counterpoint not having a real answer to for me to have confidence in them going into this particular matchup.
I do also have to agree here. Add Rose's driving to the mix, and I think that 40 will have to be flawless with his driving to even stand a chance of beating this menacing multi-bot. I'm not entirely counting out Counterpoint, since it has proven itself to be quite the plucky machine in the past. and it's a fan favourite for a reason.
Moving us into the Emerald group, we have the undefeated Tough as Nails fighting against the flaming rotary lifter of Truncator. Will Tough as Nails remain undefeated, or will our Spanish entrant claim its third victory?
I think Tough as Nails may prove to be a very awkward shape to toss. And even if Truncator manages to get a good lift, Tough as Nails may be one of the most invertible robots in the entire field with those massive wheels at the rear. There's just no angle that you can, or no angle it will land, where it won't be able to recover and drive away.
Though, in the same breath, I don't see what Tough as Nails will be able to do either. If it grabs the front, Truncator will toss it away, and both robots will be back to square one. It will take something spectacular for this to be anything other than a 3-minute fight between two very competent control bots. Hazard's going to be a big factor in this match. Both of these robots have proven themselves to be quite slippery when they need to be.
Well, let's take a moment to consider that Tough as Nails has 2 matches this week, with the second being against the 1-1 Serpent. But don't let that record fool you, as Serpent's loss was a close judge's decision to Truncator in week 1, and their win was a dominant performance against group leader and fellow flipper Mundo. I'm expecting to see another decisive Uta from the nippy green flipper.
I think there's a chance we'll see Tough as Nails thrown out of the arena, but I also think it's equally likely that Tough as Nails could be too controlling for Serpent, and if underneath the hazards, that flipper could take damage, and could be deactivated early in a worst-case scenario.
Moving us on to our third fight of the group, a battle between two powerful horizontal spinners with 2 very different records. The 2-0 Soundwave meets the 0-2 Akira. At second place in the group, Soundwave is looking to keep its string of dominant performances alive, while Akira needs a win today in order to keep its bracket hopes alive, as with only 4 points to its name. Akira is in the danger zone. What do you think about this fight?
Considering past performances, it's hard to not back Soundwave going into this fight after 2 very convincing knockouts across the last 2 weeks, especially when you compare that to Akira, who has lost twice by knockout up to this point. And comparing the 2 weapons, Soundwave has a longer reach and is slightly heavier. Akira is going to have to use that rear wedge well to stop any full speed shots.
The most powerful weapon in all of robot combat is a good wedge, and we saw last week that despite losing, Akira has a good wedge. And if Garlic drives anything like he did against Truncator last week, there's a good chance we'll see Akira control Soundwave around the arena, knock that spinner off balance, and land some powerful shots with its own.
Akira's other match this week will be against another robot with a less than fortunate record in Skynet, who currently sits at a dangerous 0-3. Last week, Soundwave damaged the spinner arm to the point that Crystal was unable to use it in the fight against Gosling. Hopefully the spinner will be running again this week, and Skynet will finally be able to put that weapon to good use.
It's been a tough event for Skynet so far. It hasn't been able to get that overhead spinner into play at all, and with being 0-3 already, any further losses will jeopardize Skynet's chances in making the bracket. We need to see a dramatic turnaround from it this week.
Even then, we never saw Akira's weapon be massively effective either. Mundo and Truncator tanked the few hits it dished out, so this will hopefully be a chance for the 2 bots to show their weapons have much more power than we've seen up to this point.
Mundo has been a force within the group so far. It's top of the group right now with a very, very good looking 26 points, and the only potential issue we've seen with Mundo so far in its fight with Serpent last week was its ability to wedge. Gosling may be able to scoop up Mundo, pin it against the wall, and then bring that flaming crusher into play. It might be able to get a good bite on the flat top and deal some real damage.
Yeah, we do know that Gosling's weapon is a very deadly one, even if we haven't seen it used to great effect. The flames at the tip of the beak have the ability to burn all the insides of opposing robots, threatening to end a fight in an instant.
This will be a battle for control, as both these bots really rely on getting underneath their opponents to use their weapons effectively. Although I am a little bit nervous that Gosling's wings may take a beating from the axe of Mundo, this should hopefully be a very good driving match between 2 control bots.
For our final fight in the Emerald group this week is a battle between the Slithering Serpent and the Spinning Hammer of Skynet. For how much Serpent is making a comeback after week 1, it is looking like nothing can beat it. The wedge is low, the flipper is powerful, and is looking to score some more out of the arena knockouts. Being a small machine and being very well armoured, and considering Skynet's record so far, I don't really see a way for Skynet to combat it.
I honestly think we're underestimating Skynet in this fight. We know that Serpent's top armor is quite thin, and with that gas bottle being positioned right underneath this thin plastic armor, a good hit could disable that flipper early, and with the flourish of control we saw last week at the start of the Soundwave fight, if that can be replicated, I think we could finally see Skynet get its first win at this vital point in the event.
My main concern with this fight is the state of Skynet's spinning arm. If Crystal can't get it repaired in time, Skynet doesn't stand a chance. We saw how the lifter performed last week and it didn't look massively favourable against Gosling, so I simply don't see it doing well against Serpent either. Let's see our predictions for this fight.
I see I'm the only one supporting Skynet in this fight, and I made my reasons clear before. If we see the Skynet from the start of the Soundwave fight, then Skynet has this one.
Serpent showed what it could do very effectively last week, and we're still yet to see anything outstanding from Skynet in any of its 3 fights up to this point, so I don't think Skynet really has much of a hope.
Agreed, Serpent dominated Mundo last week, and I think that this fight will be another showing of that same thing. Regardless, good luck to both teams, make it a good one. And now over to the Sapphire group, and the top of the card we have Leviathan face off against Howler. The 2 bots at the bottom of the group are facing off against each other, and whichever one loses may have the tournament hopes slip away. We have yet to see any kind of strong showing from either of these competitors. I wonder who will come out on top within the match of the losers.
Leviathan's builder has been desperately trying to increase the speed of that shuffling mechanism, even more so than last week, and if successful, we could likely see a comeback from what we know is a deadly spinner.
Leviathan needs to pray it isn't flipped over too. As we saw last week, it was unable to self-right, which in today's Roblox robot combat scene is a huge problem, especially with bots like AJ, Abyss and the vertical spinners in its group. There's a lot of matchups that, once at a low speed, Leviathan is just a sitting duck in.
One of the matchups this week that I'm looking forward to is AJ Allmanflinger versus Electromotivation, 2 of the top bots within the group facing off against each other, Spinner versus Flipper. It should be a very good fight.
To me, Electromotivation has this. It has been a very well-performing machine in all of its fights so far, with its only loss being to Jokester after the full Flipper stranded it against the arena wall. I've been in its corner since its initial inception before Foxii Fighters, and despite its rocky record in previous unaired competitions, I am pleased to see that to shine it here in Foxii Fighters, and I think the best shocks still have yet to come from this bolt from the blue.
From one egg beater to another, Huo Wang meets Stardust in Fight 3 of the group, and this is another Spinner versus Flipper matchup. Last week we saw that despite being powerful, Stardust is somewhat of a glass cannon, and a hit in the wrong place could cripple that Flipper. I personally think that Huo's full wedge will likely be the ideal setup for this fight. That's what I would be going with anyway. Having that solid wedge would give it a more reliable collision with the hinged forks on the front of Stardust.
However, I personally think that Stardust has the better chance in this fight. We're yet to see Huo Wang's self-righter work, and with a flipper that powerful and forks that effective, I don't see a massive amount that Huo can do to fight back, but upsets may happen.
Moving on to our next fight in the Sapphire group, we have Abyss against Jokester. Abyss has proven itself to be a domineering force in this group, lifting, suplexing and deflecting threats away to create his undefeated record. However, we cannot count out the speeding bullet that is Jokester, who despite being on a 1-2 record, has proven itself to be a deadly force of robotic nature, jabbing away at opponents with their lethal puncher. Despite being on Abyss's side for this match, I'm not counting Jokester out yet. What about you guys?
Well, look, I know firsthand that Abyss is a powerful bot. Despite that, Jokester does have the advantage of being faster and more agile, but all Abyss needs to do in order to get the win is grab it at the right time and at the right place.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with the two of you. I think that Abyss's win streak will continue, as the control it has demonstrated in the fight so far has been incredible. Despite being on the back foot a few times, Abyss has proven to be durable and only needs that weapon to work once to end a fight.
Yeah, this isn't what Jokester will want to hear before heading into that arena, but I'm also going to have to say that Abyss takes this one based on its run so far. 3 wins, but not the most dominant of performances. I do like the look of Jokester, and I can see it giving Abyss a strong fight as it hopes to end Abyss's winning streak and defy our predictions.
Howler will be meeting AJ in Fight 5 this week, and it's looking like another fantastic control battle will happen here in the arena. Both of these bots are near the middle of their group, and a strong win here could launch them up into the top half.
With my loss to Abyss, I know that this might be an uphill battle for me. There's a chance it could be the same story as that fight. All that needs to happen for Howler to pick up the win is a well-placed grab. I've learned some ways to combat grabbers from the last fight, and I won't rule out a win, but it'll have to come from being consistently aggressive and making opportunities.
Next, we'll see the competition's 2 egg-beating machines face off for bragging rights as the ultimate egg beater, Electromotivation and Huo Wang. Both have tasted victory omelette thus far in the competition, but both have also left the arena with egg on their face. One of them will be getting a second loss, but who's getting scrambled today? I can see this being another close one, and it's a fight which may well come down to one decisive blow. My money is on Electromotivation, but it may well crack against Huo Wang.
We now whisk ourselves over the Topaz group, where we'll see the group leader Super Esports face up against Demon Spirit, the latter of whom having 2 fights this week. Super Esports has shown to be a difficult force to control, having revolutionised the robot combat scene with their Omnidrive wheel system, and utilising it to great effect against his opponents so far. Though, let's not count out Demon Spirit, who has shown its potential in its matches to be a tenacious machine that can take the hits and not back down, even if it's down to a singular wheel. Personally, knowing Demon Spirit's record before Foxii Fighters, I know it is on track for future success if driven well. But against the slippery movements of their next opponent, this might be up in the air. How do you guys think this will go?
Well, just as Red says, outside of Foxii Fighters, Demon Spirit is really finding its way and gaining some momentum. Its loss against Xiao Shalong was nothing to be ashamed of, but there'll be some confidence coming away from that victory against Baratuda. The Omnidrive will be difficult for it to contend with, but I'm old-fashioned and I look at Omni wheels and I wonder if actually the more traditional designs will win this one out.
There's a big fight feel for this next match, as we have a battle between 2 heavy hitters in Xiao Shilong and Lemon. We've seen this fight before at the finals of This Is Fighting Robots, where Xiao picked up the win, so the stakes are raised for Lemon to take back its victory. Since then, Xiao has had multiple configurations added to better itself against certain opponents, but for me, I have to go with Lemon considering how strong it's been so far. What are we all thinking for this one?
My money is on Xiao Shilong here, as you can see. With the big horizontal wedge that Prime has added since the last time we saw it, I can see this fight being very similar to Quake vs Lemon from last week, with Lemon pinballing around the arena. However, the key difference is that Xiao will actually be able to hit back, and hit back hard too. I think this is going to be a repeat of the TIFR Grand Final.
There's a lot of focus here on those changes that have been made to Xiao Shilong since its previous meeting with Lemon, but Lemon hasn't stood still either. This is a robot that is still evolving and improving too, even after all these years. Both robots are more than prepared for this battle, and my hope is that we aren't simply left with 2 piles of broken parts at the 3-minute mark. Lemon's not yet suffered that dreaded L in Foxii Fighters, and I have faith in it to keep that L at bay once again, even when faced with the formidable presence in the arena that Xiao Shilong has so quickly become.
Well, I'm glad that John and Black Cat are seeing sense here. Despite the fact that Lemon is indeed a pinball, it is a pinballing machine of death. I'm entirely confident going into this match against Xiao, as Prime has made one crucial mistake that prevents it from being a champion in this competition. It lacks a self-righting mechanism. I know it's deadly, and it has all these newfangled configurations to potentially counter me. But all I need to do is manage to tip him over, and the only thing that Xiao will be tearing up is the floor. Bring it on, Prime!
Moving from 2 very powerful spinners to 2 control bots. We have the front hinge lifter of a Wave Runner against the sheer width of 2-headed Death Penguin. And to put it simply, this is going to be one-sided. As much as I love the Death Penguin, I very much doubt it will have an answer for what has proven to be a very good wedge at the front of Wave Runner.
I have to agree with your prediction. Death Penguin is a fun bot, but it's had no real competitive edge over anyone. It's not what I want to be saying, but Wave Runner has a pretty easy one on its hands here.
Now we go on to Baratuda versus Quake, where both of these robots are looking to grab their second victory in their group against the other. Quake has shown to be a difficult machine to put down, with that tough front wedge allowing for it to shake off earth-shattering blows and allow for it to bring some overhead blows of its own. Against Baratuda, Quake might have an easier time in comparison to previous matches, as while Baratuda has managed to scrape up one win, it is yet to show anything truly impressive. And that lack of Shremek certainly means that it's not long for this competition.
What I love about competition today is that a robot like Quake can come into the arena with a hammer for a weapon and we can't immediately write it off, and I'm not writing it off here. It of course depends on what weapon Quake chooses to tackle Baratuda with. The spinner is tempting, but I might stick with the overhead and aim for the centre of Baratuda's spinner. Baratuda will have more to aim for on Quake, but as Red mentioned, no Shremek. You can strike as much as you want with that spinner, but if the arena hazards aren't in your favour, it's over and out.
For our fifth fight of the group, we've got Lemon teeing off against Demon Spirit. This will be interesting for Demon Spirit, as it'll have to modify its normal fighting style to avoid Lemon's spinning tooth from ripping apart the flipper. I think Double has a chance at the win, but with the amount of factors against him, I have to go with Lemon. What do we think about it?
As this will be the second fight for both of these robots today, there's a chance we may see some fatigue set in from their earlier matches against two of the most powerful spinners in the event. Depending on the outcomes of their first matches, this fight could go in many different ways, with Xiao and Super Esports having the potential to really dictate the pace of this match. I'm gonna withhold my judgment on this fight until we've seen what happens in their first matches.
And in the final fight of the night, we see the return of Xiao Shilong, where he faces up against the underwhelming two-headed Death Penguin. I don't think I need to say much about who is going to win this fight, but I'm going to anyway to fill out this time. Xiao Shilong is a deadly vertical spinner that has torn through its opponents within the group so far, showing superior strength despite the fact that it's held back by its lack of Shremek. Its multiple configurations for its front may further aid its chances against its opponent, but when your chances are already 100%, you do need to do much more. Maybe Xiao Shilong might flip itself over somehow. Penguin can only hope.
And on that note of optimism for Two-Headed Death Penguin, we're receiving word that the arena is ready and the robots for our first match are waiting. Counterpoint in one square, Neola in the other. We were bigging up Neola a little earlier, and now it's time to see if we were right in our predictions. To the arena.
And here we go, first fight of the night. It is Neola against Counterpoint for the Ruby group. We can see that the flipper is trying to angle in. Good first shot there from Counterpoint with the back spinner there. The drum looking, I think, for an opportunity to get its weapon involved in this battle. Counterpoint looking towards the drum.
Oh, that's a good one.
There we go.
The drum did seem to be holding back at the start there. It definitely seems like they're using the plan of set. Oh, good hit there. Shedding some parts from the flipper.
The flipper tried its best to try and flip the Counterpoint, but I think Counterpoint's undercutter makes it quite difficult to handle the robot.
Oh, good hit there. The shot on the lifter, but it's still fully functional.
Oh, and a clap back there from Counterpoint. The drum, of course, showing the fact that it is definitely the most threatening part of this configuration here, as Counterpoint maneuvers the flipper around a bit there.
Good shot on the forks there. I will say, we're only a minute into this fight, and despite all four of us predicting Neola to win this, I'm not feeling quite as confident as I was.
Yeah, I definitely thought all the bit of friendly fire there, and I do have to agree. Neola, I think, while definitely putting up a fantastic fight, Counterpoint is bearing these blows here.
Is Neola seeming a lot less coordinated than previous weeks here? Because that was interesting charge there.
Yes, I think the I don't know. Oh, flipped over there from the hazards there.
Oh, nearly out!
Oh, careful there. That Counterpoint. The hazards are deadly. Oh, both routes.
Going back to back.
Back to back. Yeah, I have to agree here that I don't feel like there's much coordination this week as there are with these two. I think the drum is looking for an opportunity.
Oh! Hello, physics. How are you? Oh, and the flipper's gone. The flipper's gone. The horizontal just got a lucky hit and took off that flipper on the.
That is not looking good for Neola there, and but
there's a wheel guard. Oh, is the flipper dead? The flipper might be dead. And so is the drum. We are looking at Neola's first defeat here.
Oh, I can't believe it! I thought they could still keep going.
For a 4-0 prediction against Counterpoint. What an upset here. Well done to 40. That was expertly driven.
Yeah, definitely great work there from Counterpoint. Commiserations to Neola. I think the driving was lacking this week.
Thankfully, we will be seeing Neola again later against Terabyte. I'm looking forward to that fight. And now our next fight is Group 2nd place Terabyte against the lifters of Silly Goose. Ooh, good box rush, but Terabyte manages to dodge it.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest here. I don't exactly have much high hopes of Silly Goose here up against this very powerful machine Terabyte. I think undefeated up until now, and I think we're going to see more of why that is the case here in this battle.
The Shell Spinners have been looking pretty unstoppable in this competition so far, but we have seen Silly Goose is a defensive brick and getting a good lift there.
Good attack there from Silly Goose, moving around, but it is now tipped itself over, and it can't exactly utilise that ramming wedge on the front there to its best effect.
It's about to drive itself out the arena then. Gets the wedge back into the good position, and is trying to position it.
But instead exposing itself to Terabyte, as Terabyte, of course, is spinning up, doing what it does best, and just driving around and hoping to hit the robot, which it does there.
That 360 degrees of attack of Terabyte is proving quite difficult for Silly Goose to handle. Oh, and there's the beak!
There we go! De-beaked there! What's he going to do now? As he's got himself doing
I was going to say, that'd be a very interesting knockout.
Oh dear, and he's tipped himself over. This is some poor control here so far from Silly Goose, as he's exposing himself way too much to the Shell Spinner, and the Shell Spinner taking advantage of that. Goodness me, I'm getting myself too excited.
That plow is starting to look quite damaged now. We're in the second half of the fight. Terabyte's still going strong, looking unstoppable so far.
And meanwhile, Silly Goose is running around like a headless goose. So he's not exactly doing much, and I can see that the control is starting to lack. He is drifting along the arena floor. He is spinning. He is moving around.
Be taking damage at this point. I don't see much Silly Goose can do to fight back. It's just got to ram that plow and hope it can get some sort of weird deflection. We haven't actually seen Terabyte have to self-right yet, so there's a chance that if somehow it flips over, we could see another Leviathan. Oh, never mind!
I don't think we're going to be seeing any flipping over here, Foxy. That primary weapon is gone, and Silly Goose has lost another
down.
wheel.
The plow is gone. That movement does not look controlled enough. We will probably... There is a count. Yep. Oh, and Mystic actually leaving his opponents alone for once.
Oh, how merciful indeed. Well, as merciful as ripping off your opponent's legs is, but there we go. This is very reminiscent of that fight against Neola there. Fantastic win from the undefeatable Terabyte.
That plow's still functional, so some credit to Silly Goose here. But at the end of the day, what was it going to do? Terabyte is looking unstoppable.
Fight 3 of the Ruby group. In the red square, we have Burnout, and in the blue square, we have Avalanche. Avalanche looking the stronger of the two in terms of their records. Let's see if Burnout can grab a win in this fight up against the deadly undercutter of Avalanche.
This is our first time seeing Avalanche's heavy disc. It's obviously decided that considering Burnout does not have a damaging weapon, it can forego some of that armor and put that big weapon on itself.
Yeah, and I don't blame it, since I don't think Burnout's going to do much in terms of damage to that weapon, so...
Although it has inverted Avalanche here, which may be a slight problem for it.
Or it may be a slight more problem for Burnout, as it has a lot more reach to get to higher points now on Burnout. Burnout strikes itself against the drum there.
Another good floor flipper. Ooh, nearly tossing it out the arena. Definitely going for another Uta shot there.
Oh, those two dancing around, getting locked together, but...
That spinner still going strong as we enter the second minute of the match. Burnout caught on the wall spikes, but is trying to flip itself free, which it does, avoiding a countout.
But it has given time for Avalanche to spin up and strike off a cosmetic piece of the armor there.
Ooh, there's a bit more actual damage. You can see a part of the flipper coming off there.
Yes, and I'm definitely seeing here that flipping him over was not good, but flipping him back on his wheel is definitely helpful.
Oh, and straight back upside down, and another flip, a really good chain here, under our arena hammer.
Flips.
Burnout making a comeback. An Avalanche once again!
And then pushed over! Fantastic!
We have mentioned this in every Avalanche fight so far, but it is phenomenal how well that thing can push without any sort of wedge.
Yeah, it's like the disc acts more of a wedge than wedges actually do. Oh, burnout!
Another good flip there.
Oh,
Getting
missed
towards
flip
the
there, but
final
good
minute
run.
of the match, and honestly, this is a lot closer than I expected it to be after that first opening flourish from Burnout.
Indeed, while a lot of damage has been dealt to Burnout, a lot of it has mainly been cosmetic and superficial damage. I'm not seeing anything major yet, but Avalanche is still being aggressive, and so is Burnout. Oh,
Burnout being flipped by the floor flipper at the same time as flipping its opponent.
Though I have to say, that flipper is looking definitely cracked and broken there by Avalanche. I think Burnout has to be careful how they approach the spinner now, as Avalanche pins Burnout up against the wall. A good push there.
Very good pin from the damaging robot here.
Spinner spinning back up to speed. Burnout needs to really hound and stay on it, because otherwise
seeing
that
what
flipper
you
is going
mean
to break.
about that flipper being very damaged.
Oh, and a piece!
A wheel guard coming
there.
off. That back right wheel is now exposed, and there goes the flipper.
Yeah, as I was saying, Foxy, could be the moment in which the judges turn towards Avalanche's favour in its entirety.
Another great push, nearly running out the arena. Wow.
Goodness me, I definitely think that it was even in the start there, but near towards the end, Avalanche, I think, is definitely pushing back and definitely controlling this fight as these two lock together for the final seconds. Can we see anything more? No,
There
it's going
goes
to
the bell to our judges.
I don't know about you, Foxy, but I think that was a clear win for Avalanche. Burnout definitely did its best to try and push back, but in the end, it got wedged by a spinner.
And our judges seem to agree with you. After the damage dealt at the end, they have awarded Avalanche the win on an 8-4 decision. And now, fight 4. We have the amazingly complex Cerberus against the simple Game Over. Will complexity or simplicity come out on top today? And with that first hit, it's looking like the Vert will.
Yeah, I definitely think that Game Over has more of a chance of defeating Cerberus than he has his previous opponents, while Cerberus indeed proves itself to be quite an interestingly and intricately designed machine. A simple Vert may be its fatal flaw here in this match, as long as Game Over drives well and Cerberus drives poorly, but I don't think we're going to be seeing any poor driving here so far, as Cerberus is on the retreat and Game Over continuously bringing the aggression, striking and
wheel
taking
pod
the
gone
wheel pod.
already! Oh, a lot of catch points on Cerberus, and we're just seeing the vulnerabilities of it right now. And a pin into the walls. Game Over backs off. Cerberus is not looking controlled, but Game Over has beached itself on the wheel guard, and we are seeing a simultaneous count out here.
Oh no, I don't know. Even if both robots are knocked out here, I think that Game Over is done enough to impress the judges. Cerberus, not so much. Yeah, that's a double knockout.
No weapon used from Cerberus in that fight, and Game Over just really showing the power of the vertical spinner here. And
yeah, I don't think that we're going to be seeing much on the cards in terms of Cerberus, as Cerberus was playing the running game in that match.
And yes, it appears the judges have given this in favour of Game Over, giving it its first win on an 11-3.
And this is sure to be an interesting one. Fight 5 of the Ruby group. In red square we have Neola, and the blue square we have Terabyte. Terabyte being undefeated and Neola being defeated, but Neola is pulling out a very interesting configuration this match.
Yes, instead of using 2 smaller robots, it's gone for one of them and then just made up that extra weight with a ton of armour. That wraparound plow covering about 75% of the robot's surface, and then having that horizontal disc covering the last 25.
Well, I didn't think that would be allowed for clusterbots, but I suppose fair enough. It's definitely proving itself to be effective at the moment, as it's hounding against Terabyte. Terabyte, of course, stuck against the wall and looking a bit poorly controlled here.
Having a few small issues there, but seeming to regain control and looking to make some space now to get that big shell spun up. But yeah, Neola is just smothering it.
It needs to get out of that corner there. It needs to stay away from the
Neola caught. This could be potential for a good shot on the armor.
Good shot there from Terabyte. I think Terabyte definitely needs to stay away from the walls, stay away from the corners, because otherwise Neola will definitely hound it and keep it in a place where it can't properly spin up. But Neola, once again, still being aggressive, still continuing to utilize that backside and just stay on Terabyte here.
We haven't seen much weapon usage from Neola yet, but that could be a problem if this does go to the judges.
It could be, but at the same time, aggression is the most important factor, and it utilising that behind and being the most aggressive.
Oh, there's a good
definitely
shot
is
from
gonna-
Michelle.
Oh, yes. I definitely think that in terms of the cards, both robots seem, I'd say, fairly even in terms of aggression, with Terabyte keep it.
In time, yes, I would say so.
Both robots are definitely meeting each other in the middle there, but
Ooh,
I'd say
good
that
pushes from Neola. I think Neola's got control, but Terabyte by far has damage at this point in time. This is a very close match.
I would indeed agree, and look at that, another good,
Ooh,
fantastic
the disc
push
of
there.
Neola getting some good shots in now as we enter our final minute.
Another good push, and pushed up
Ooh,
against
and a
it. I mean, pinned there. That is not going to look good. And then turning around to strike with that spinner there. Very good against Terabyte. But Terabyte, of course, is as powerful as he is durable. So trying to break through there is going to be quite difficult. I imagine.
Oh, a very nice deflect there.
Fantastic work there. And I have to say that this is definitely looking a bit more into Neola's favour here. As Neola pins against
Misses the
Terabyte
shot with
against
the disc, though.
I
As
think
absurd of a choice this may have been from Rose, it's definitely helped her. I think this has held up way better than two robots would have.
yes, it's just a matter of though if there's going to be any knockout or if it goes to the judges. Though I think if it goes to the judges, Neola's definitely I think going to be eking out the aggression points there. Oh, driving over the kill source, that was not ideal.
Ooh, a little bit of control lacking there. Oh, and onto a
that's
Ramrod,
good.
holding it up in the air, giving Terabyte a good chance to get a spin, but the hit just does not do much.
It is
That
just
armor is
deflecting
proving
against
to
the
be
armor.
so durable.
Yeah, they did fantastically well just to deflect the shots and absorb the blows from Terabyte, and they left Terabyte, of course, at their mercy several times that match. I don't think Terabyte's going to remain undefeated for long.
And you are correct. Our judges have awarded this win to Neola on a 9-4 decision. And our final fight of the Ruby group, returning for their second match of the week, we have Avalanche and Silly Goose. Avalanche once again having that heavier disc and a much more successful box rush from Silly Goose here, pinning Avalanche against the wall spikes instantly. And a count out within the first 10 seconds!
That was a bit of a late start there for Avalanche at the start of that fight, and I think it definitely costed it at that moment. Silly Goose, though, taking advantage of that, but now Avalanche is spinning up, getting itself ready to strike
And
in.
the Saw's blocking Silly Goose from charging over, giving Avalanche time to spin up to full speed, but that plow very effectively stopping that heavy disc.
And getting in there again. Silly Goose, I think, trying to find some kind of purchase. They need to stop that spinner.
good
because
shot
that spinner
there.
is going to keep on trucking. And then the spinner stops. Pieces, of course, are flying off of Silly Goose.
One of the support, that lift has got to be a bit weaker now.
Oh, one of the eyes is gone.
Oh, and it's out! Silly Goose! Out of
What
the
a
arena!
fantastic round there with Silly Goose. That's the power of a control bot when you leave it to do its business. Getting underneath Avalanche there and flinging it out of the arena through sheer force and momentum. Fantastic work for Silly Goose. Commiserations to Avalanche.
And welcome back to Foxii Fighters. We have just seen our Ruby group fights, and there have certainly been some big surprises here. And let's start with the main one. Counterpoint becoming the first and currently only bot to bring down Neola, proving all 4 of our predictions wrong, and showing that it is a far more competent machine than we thought.
Yes, Foxy, it was a massive surprise to all of us in the studio seeing Counterpoint absolutely devastate the pretty much conceivably undefeatable clusterbot that is Neola. Counterpoint performed incredibly well and should now have its place confirmed inside the bracket from that performance alone.
The next match we saw was between Terabyte and Silly Goose. Terabyte has continued to look formidable and had a very convincing knockout win over Goose. Even in defeat, there were still some good bites and lifts before the match turned against it.
If you'll remember, I said right back at the start that these full-body spinners were impressing me, and Terabyte's continuing to do so, especially with a victory like that. With the full-body spinner, the weapon is also the armour. Every single bit of Terabyte that Silly Goose could attack was attacking it back. Silly Goose fought as hard as it could, but it just wasn't enough against Terabyte today.
Now on to Avalanche versus Burnout. Another long fight for both machines. It was a truly, I think, back and forth battle, and one of the best ones we've already seen in Foxii Fighters so far. Both machines showing off their strengths in the battle, with Burnout getting plenty of flips on Avalanche, and Avalanche getting plenty of shots with the blade. The blade being fairly superficial, I'd say, in the early stages of the match, but as time went on, we then eventually saw massive parts and massive blows dealt to Burnout in the ending of the match. And I have to say, if it was up to me in judging that match, I would still give it to Avalanche.
Personally, I think the turning point of this match was Avalanche breaking Burnout's flipper. Up until that point, this was a very close match that I could easily see going in either bot's favour. However, once that heavy disc disabled the flipper, there was nothing that Burnout could really do with the time left in the fight. Overall, a very well-driven match between the two machines.
And on to Game Over versus Cerberus, and how good was it to see Game Over get its first win of the event? It wasn't without its difficulties though. Speaking from experience, I always preferred not to finish my battles with both me and my opponent immobile. However, Game Over was still fully functional, just beached, and up until that point it had dominated the fight against Cerberus.
Yes, one could probably argue that Cerberus might be a bit too complex in that match. I mean, Cerberus has proven itself to be quite the difficult machine to operate, and while we have seen it be effective before, we have also seen it be ineffective. I was surprised to see it be a double knockout, really. I was kind of hoping that it would be a first proper knockout for Game Over.
No doubt about it. Next match after that was a very fun one between Neola and Terabyte. I have to say, Neola's game was on point in this match, even with the oddball strategy. We hadn't seen Terabyte be beaten before, so for a lone Neola bot to do it shows just how powerful the team is. If you still haven't decided on a group winner, this showed me that Neola is at the top of the mountain, even with its prior performances.
The two fights that Neola had today were night and day. In the first, against Counterpoint, Neola was looking far from its best, and I was worried that if that continued, it may have spelled trouble against such a destructive machine in Terabyte. However, Rose made that incredibly wise choice to forgo having two robots in the arena, and instead chose to heavily armor one until it was the same weight as a full-size heavyweight. It was a risky decision, but it certainly paid off.
A sure surprise for this next match, Silly Goose was able to defeat Avalanche in very quick fashion. The match went less than a minute, which was a shock to everyone. We really got to see the full potential of Goose here, and what a comeback it was after its last match. But that's what happens when two vastly different bots are placed against each other. Goose's overall control easily outperformed Avalanche's heavy spinning weapon and tossed it out of the arena.
Poor Avalanche, that's not the Avalanche we saw earlier against Burnout. But that was the case with Neola too. It had such a terrific showing against a robot as strong as Terabyte, but somehow floundered when faced with Counterpoint. Avalanche performed like two completely different robots. But that's how it goes sometimes. One design performs best against another. It's like a big, weird game of rock, paper, scissors. Anyway, on the subject of scissors, we kick off the Emerald group with a very scissory robot in the form of Tough as Nails, as it meets Truncator in the arena.
And the first fight of the Emerald group for this week, in the red square we have Tough as Nails, and in the blue square, Truncator. Both robots, control bots, and proving themselves to be quite effective in this competition so far, and a good lift there from Truncator.
Yes, a very strong start from Truncator here. However, I am quite curious why ZDR would use this anti-spinner armor against a robot like Tough as Nails.
I think it's because it gives Truncator more angles to utilize that weapon and get in closer, I think, to Tough as Nails as opposed to with the Forks, even though the Forks probably would still work just as successfully against Tough as Nails here. Oh, and
an interesting clamp
I think the Truncator...
Not sure how that one's happened.
Yeah, I think while Tough as Nails is clamping onto Truncator, Truncator is cranking onto Tough as Nails with the lifter there as he goes and lifts it again.
Trying to flick Tough as Nails onto the shelf, but Truncator is unsuccessful.
Well, I think that's definitely a good angle.
Oh, and another good shot there, the flame jets.
I think those wheels have been somewhat melted by the flames of Truncator here. It is not moving as well as it should.
Yes, Truncator definitely seems to have hurt Tough as Nails quite severely here. Those flamethrowers on that rotary lift are dealing some good damage.
Yeah, that's if Truncator wants to leave it alone. I think it's playing with his food right now.
Yes, we can't count it out until ZDR does leave it alone.
Oh!
But with attacks like that,
he
doesn't need to.
Can it get off of the shelf now with its impaired...
That count-out has started.
No, its movement is impaired right now, Foxy. I don't know if it can.
Yes, the movement does not seem able to let it go down.
Yeah, and there we go.
There's our knockout. Unfortunate, and ZDR does a spin of victory.
It goes to show how powerful flames can be in the right situation. they have a lasting impact on your parts.
Yes, it is quite unfortunate, but still, even so, tough as nails, putting up an alright fight. Well done to Truncator, though, for getting a very strong win there. And now, Fight 2 of the Emerald Group sees the Flipper Serpent fight the Overhead Spinner of Skynet. Skynet hasn't had the greatest amount of success in this event so far. Maybe this will be its fight. It's gone with its Forks config and hoping to get under that wedge of Serpent, but we have seen Serpent's wedges incredibly low to the ground.
Yes, I haven't had much high hopes for Skynet, but I'm hoping with this one that maybe there might be a glimmer, a chance of redemption in this battle, as Skynet is being tossed up into the air by Serpent here.
It is bouncing around quite a bit so far, but it does seem to be occasionally getting under.
Oh!
And a very nice hit on the Flipper there. Definitely caused some damage. I think that's the most effective one we've seen so far.
There's a sudden shift here in terms of driving skill with Skynet here.
Getting caught up on the ramrods between those forks.
Maybe the driver here, Crystal, has finally got some coffee in them.
It'll definitely be nice to see if they have. I've wanted to see that overhead spinner really deal some damage. And aside from the one slight shot it got in the Soundwave fight last week, we haven't seen it. Ooh, nearly a pin there, and another one against the drums.
There's been so many moments the Serpent could have gotten a really good flip there, but has not managed to land any kind of big one yet.
So many just slightly missed opportunities. It's so unfortunate.
Missed flip again. You can definitely see that. And then a nice little flick there, tipping them over. And another explosive flip!
Yes, this fight is definitely looking to be in Serpent's favour as of right now. Skynet, despite a little flourish early, has not been getting underneath very effectively. Oops, Saw's getting a cheeky shot in there too.
Another fantastic flip there. Serpent, I think, definitely needs to be careful with its missed flips, because otherwise they will be running out of gas. But there we go again, another fantastic flip there, tossing Skynet around. Skynet recovering, looking for a means to try and get back in again.
So nearly underneath.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, that's a very good pin, and one shot on the wheel.
And he's still holding on to him.
Completely underneath, ready for the second one.
Great blow.
And spinning up,
it's pinned them between the
separation
and the spinner.
Third shot, and there's the release.
No parts breaking from that, but that was some very good shots there.
That one front pontoon is looking quite damaged on Serpent now, and we know it needs them to wedge. And Serpent using a lot of gas self-righting there.
Yeah, I can definitely...
and there it goes!
That's not looking good for Serpent. Those pontoons are low and is everything to Serpent. But now, with one pontoon less, I don't think they're going to be getting any kind of wedging as good as they did before in this match. Skynet is climbing back.
A very clever shot there, bringing the spinner down to the flip. Closes on it, and that's another good shot. Serpent is looking to be scrambling for points in the last few seconds.
And I have to say, coming into the final seconds, Skynet is all over Serpent. What another
amazing
explosive shot! Exposing itself, he's stuck against the wall! Another shot again! Oh my word!
And we have finally seen what Skynet can do! Serpent just not looking as good in this fight. Skynet definitely got the win here in my eyes.
Me, yeah. Skynet, I think, has redeemed themselves here in this battle, and I think looking at the cards, it will probably be a close one, but that was very convincing in the end for Skynet.
And our judges have agreed, giving Skynet its very first win on a 7-5 decision.
Moving on to Fight 3 of the Emerald Group in the red square, Soundwave in the blue square, Akira. Akira utilising a much heavier weapon than they did before, and Soundwave utilising a much lower bar, hopefully, to reach down to the lowest ends of Akira. Both robots getting a glancing blow on each other first. Akira definitely utilising that wedge, getting into play, getting Soundwave stuck on the ramrods there, and keeping on Soundwave, which is ideal for Akira, since Akira is definitely more of the, I want to say, controlling type of spinner.
Yes, definitely. Akira has that very big wedge at the back, which we mentioned in our pre-show it will need to use to deflect some of those heavy hits from Soundwave's bar. But,
which it kind of does there.
Yes, Soundwave bouncing up a little bit after deflecting off that wedge. Those weird deflects are probably some of the horizontal's biggest weakness. Hitting a wedge can cause them to go all sorts of ways, as we have seen with Akira in previous matches, as it's got stuck quite a few times.
Hopefully it doesn't get stuck in this match, and it turns out to be much more of a even battle, and it seems like Akira's definitely, I'd say, being the more aggressive of the two, utilising that front wedge to make it very difficult for Soundwave to get any kind of proper hit or purchase in, almost like...
Oh, was that a wheel swipe from Soundwave? Oh, it was! The back left wheel on Soundwave has gone.
Fantastic shot there from Akira there, taking away a wheel, but a wheel guard has just been sniped away from Akira there by Soundwave. And Soundwave now has to be a bit more, or Akira has to be more careful on Soundwave now, because that blade definitely has both the reach and the range to strike
the catcher at the top gone from Akira's wedge. There's a chance now we might see Soundwave just slide right up that and sit on top of Akira.
Yes, it might now be just a question of durability now, as well. Akira's definitely been very good with that wedge. They definitely let Soundwave spin up a fair few times, meaning that they've taken a lot of hefty blows on that wedge. Just a matter of seeing.
At this point, interesting shot there. Akira getting the worst deflection. We've seen a lot of weapon-to-weapon shots here, and I'm starting to wonder whose weapon is going to break first. Looking at it now, it looks like Soundwave's is more damage than Akira's.
Though both robots are locked together, and I was concerned that Akira would get stuck there.
There's that wall flipper.
It may just be a question of which weapon outlasts the other. Soundwave
taking a little while to get spinning there. That's not looking too good for it. Oh, another wheel gone. Soundwave reduced to 2. Oh no, that was Akira's wheel. My mistake. The exposed wheel on Akira has been tore off. Oh, but Soundwave's weapon has been tore off. It is now lodged behind one of our arena drums.
So, I suppose the question is, which weapon
Akira onto the shelf! No!
That is not ideal for Akira.
Can it bounce off?
Oh, yes,
No! The drum! Hoisting it back on.
Oh my
And a very unfortunate knockout with 5 seconds left in the fight.
Akira once more continuing that streak of unluck there. I definitely think he would have had a chance to win that fight had it gone to the judges, but unfortunately Momentum had other plans.
I'd say until that moment where the floor flipper fired and sent Akira tumbling to the shelf, it was winning that fight. So unfortunate, but Akira does have a second fight today, and hopefully we can see it make a comeback. And now, Fight 4 in the Emerald Group sees the Flaming Crusher at Gosling against top of the group Mundo. Will we see more issues with Mundo's wedge today after last week against Serpent? Or will Mundo be able to get underneath and make that goose fly?
Oh, we're definitely wedged underneath there, trying to grab it.
The Crusher nearly into play early, got a slight bit of damage on the top panel. Are those Mundo's parts or Gosling's that are on the arena?
Gosling's parts. I think they got struck.
Oh yes, they're part of Gosling's base plate. You can see on that left side some damage.
Oh, good flip there,
good
Mundo, and a second
Another
flip.
one. Oh, and the little hairdo on top of Gosling has gone. We know that we know that assists in the self-righting of it. So if Mundo manages to get a good flip,
camera went for a little pirouette there themselves. Got a bit too excited, but. Now back watching the action, seeing both robots try and line up their wedges to get a good attack here, since both robots are heavily reliant on their wedges to do something. Oh!
Is that out the arena? It didn't count! Gosling manages to redeem it, but it can't self-right without the spike. But Mundo obviously didn't realise that and keeps flipping, getting it back into the play. The floor flipper tries to deny Gosling's right to fight.
I think Gosling's Streamex saved it from being tossed out of the arena there. Fantastic recovery, but right now it's on the back foot up against Mundo as Mundo once again. Had it been on that flipper though, that probably would have been disastrous. But Gosling once again running away, getting hit, deflecting the drum. Mundo trying to find another way.
Mundo also nearly into the drums.
Line up another shot here. Like I say, this is a fight between whose wedge works first. And
it appears that Mundo's is getting around to the side a lot easier. You've got to imagine that might be the difference between two-wheel and four-wheel drive in these two machines. Just that extra bit of control.
Ooh. Another flip there, and with the axe
on the base plate
of Gosling being unable to self-right and striking
that base plate damage. Oh, Gosling on its wheels again.
And
another flip, pinning it against the wall. Mundo. Oh, Mundo, is it going to leave it alone? Is it going to wait for the count out, or does it want the Uta? It's axing the wings. We can't count it out until it disengages.
I think Gosling, Mundo is.
It knows it's
flipping
one,
wings.
and it gets the
Oh!
Uta. Lovely shot there from Mundo to end the fight.
What a brutal way to end it. First trying to clip the wings on the bird, and then throws him into the pit, into the outside. Goodness gracious me. So brutal, Mundo.
We are seeing an incredible showing from Mundo as well. 3 wins, and all 3 of them by knockout. This is incredible.
On to fight 5 now. We have a control bot match as we see in the blue square Serpent face up against the red square. Tough as nails, both robots fighting again today this week.
Misfire right out the gate there from Serpent, but that's a much better flip.
Fantastic flip there, and I think I have to say Tough as Nails has got its work cut out for it, considering Serpent, it can flip it from pretty much anywhere, and it just kind of hope that Tough as Nails doesn't, like, I suppose, stay on the ground really and doesn't wrap around like that, because otherwise
I don't see much that Serpent's flips are really going to do. Yes, it'll get a little bit of fall damage, but there's no way you can have Tough as Nails land that won't be on its wheels. Those wheels are giant.
Even still, though, I have to say that because of
how very good flip there.
Yeah, just like that. Just because of how giant Tough as Nails is, I think it's quite easy for Tough as Nails to ride up actually on top of Serpent and get itself into a difficult situation just like that.
Serpent almost seems to be using the flipper to free itself once grabbed, which is an interesting way, but it's seeming to be effective so far. But Tough as Nails got a good grab there, not over the flipper. Couldn't get much control around though.
Yes, had a few moments there to try and flip, but didn't do it there. I assume that Serpent is not only conserving gas, but also looking for a good place to flip Tough as Nails into
1-2
position. Yes, fantastic combo there between the Arena and Serpent. I'm thinking really the best bet for Serpent has in defeating Tough as Nails is to get it
that continuous aggression, nearly out of the arena, going for it now. Oh, but Tough as Nails slips away.
Tough as Nails readjusting itself, getting in with another little grapple. And I have to say, Tough as Nails needs to try and stay on a flatter piece.
Clamping! The flipper fires again to free itself.
Bit of jittery physics there, but nonetheless, we're all good. And like I said, Tough as Nails needs to remain away from the wedge there, because if it's not attacking from the back or the sides, it's going to slope up and onto Serpent.
The floor flipper tossing both of them. There's a good grab right near the wall. I think Tough as Nails might be trying to steer it into our arena drums. Just misses, but gets it pinned against the spikes.
In the corner,
the floor flipper separating them.
Oh,
and that's a mistake!
No, you don't want to be there, Tough as Nails! Oh!
And that's out the arena. Unfortunate. Tough as Nails getting 2 losses this week, bringing it to an even 2-2 record.
Serpent crawling back from its previous loss there against Skynet with a fantastic flip, tossing the gargantuan Tough as Nails into the corner.
And now our final fight in the Emerald group this week is the return of Akira and Skynet to the arena. Akira opting for the heavier armor and the lighter blade, and Skynet going for the same dustpan that it used against Soundwave last week. We saw that get some good control against Soundwave early, but that one hit just killed Skynet. We want to see some better driving from Crystal here against another equally deadly horizontal.
Hopefully, though, it is up against a horizontal that knows how to wedge, knows how to control, so I want to say it's almost dealing with a higher...
What's happened here? Both bots seem to be immobilized. We have another double knockout. Skynet.
How is it possible?
How was Akira balanced on a wedge like that? It stood up on its end.
It's perfectly bloody vertical. Oh my word! That's it.
That's a double knockout. One big shot between the two, and that's it.
Oh my! I could only assume that's only possible due to the gyroscopic forces of Akira's spinner. Perhaps if they spun down, they could have freed themselves, but Garlic chose not to there. I wonder what the judges will make of this.
And on a 7-5. Have given it to Akira.
I would say deserved, but I'm still kind of shocked. And now we come to the Emerald group, where we saw plenty of thrills, spills, and surprises, really. The first match, of course, getting up to is Tough as Nails versus Truncator. What a fantastic battle that was between these two machines, seeing just how varied the control game is when it comes to these two very different control bots fighting one another. This is Tough as Nails' first loss, and prideful loss, I have to say, at the very least. It put up a great fight up against Truncator, but unfortunately Truncator's weapon is not only too harassing but too aggressive for the much more, I suppose, patiently designed and patiently controlling Tough as Nails. It whittled down its ability to control itself with the flames, and then with a few powerful flicks and amazing combos, it eventually tossed Tough as Nails up onto the shelf, leaving it suspended up there and to be counted out.
Yeah, it was a very surprising finish to this match here between Truncator and Tough as Nails. Two control bots going at one another rarely end in a knockout finish, but we saw it here with Truncator taking the win. The config choice from ZDR might have been the saving grace here, as going for the Killdozer config made it harder for Tough as Nails to grab. Not what the config was built for, but it certainly worked out for Truncator in the end.
I am here with ZDR7, the builder of the stunning rotary lifter Truncator and our lone Spanish entrant. After a couple of issues against Mundo in week 1, you and Truncator really seem to have turned things around since. Are you confident that you'll make it into the Heat brackets?
I mean, hopefully, I'm always hopeful that I want to make it in, and judging with the configs that I have, I think I stand a pretty good chance. Along with that, the weapon is quite effective, more than I thought, so I think I have a good chance.
That's very, very good to hear. It is good to see Truncator's lifter combo things. That has been very interesting, especially in the Akira fight. And a few people have commented on your choice to use your heavy anti-spinner armor against Tough as Nails, a bot that doesn't really have a way to deal damage. Could we get an explanation on why you made this decision?
I used it because the front two plows, it's a really good shape to be able to push Tough as Nails along. Because if I just went for the forks, he would have been able to grab me easily with a bunch of like really low parts that are there. So if I go for like big tall plows, I'll be able to just push him about, and because Tough as Nails is Tough as Nails, I can get good catches on it with the weapon.
Ah, that does actually make a lot of sense. It's just prevent more grabs, okay. And looking at the rest of your group, you are yet to fight Skynet, Soundwave, and Gosling. Which of these are you most looking forward to fighting?
Probably Skynet or Gosling, any of the three really. All of them will probably result in good fights, and pretty sure got a good chance against all of them. I've seen what they're capable of, and I've seen what my robot's capable of, so hopefully we have good fights.
Alright, it's been good catching up with you. I wish yourself and Truncator the best for the remainder of the event. Thanks for your time. Our second fight was the one we did our predictions for, Skynet versus Serpent. And I feel incredibly proud of myself for voting for Skynet in our predictions earlier. The weapon finally worked, the forks finally wedged, and we finally saw what Skynet can do. Despite getting thrown around a bit, the damage that the articulating spinner dealt and the aggression and control shown in that second half of the fight really won it the match, and Skynet finally gets that first win.
It was a surprise, but a very pleasant surprise to see Skynet dealing some proper damage after his performance so far. And in fairness to Serpent, it was giving Skynet a good fight and performing well. It was a close decision at the end of it, but a result which Skynet can certainly be proud of.
Akira was next up in the arena, taking on Soundwave, and it ended with yet another loss for the team. Both bots had opted to take different weapons than normal, but it didn't work out in the end for Akira. We have to wonder, is this a string of bad luck, or is this where Garlic needs to look at improving his machine?
This heavier weapon on Akira was performing much better, and did break off Soundwave's bar, but an unlucky flip from our arena floor flipper left Akira tumbling up onto the shelf, with its only remaining wheel getting caught in the small gap between the arena drums and the raised platform. Another unlucky loss for Akira here leaves it still at the bottom of the group.
On to Mundo versus Gosling, a fantastic battle this one. Gosling started out strong, but the momentum stopped once Mundo got a few flips in, never letting Gosling get over again and just continuously being on top of them, harassing them, using the axe to great effect and just pinning Gosling into the wall, and eventually tossing it out of the arena. Both robots are most notably very reliant on their front wedges and their attacks. Mundo definitely got underneath and utilised its wedge a lot more in that battle. Hopefully we get to see a better win for Gosling in the future, but once again, congratulations Mundo and Orc.
What that result has done is secure Mundo first place in the group for this week, and it's dropped Gosling a couple of notches further down and into the danger zone as we head into the final 2 weeks. Gosling absolutely needs to get some wins in these remaining fights.
This next fight, Tough as Nails vs Serpent, showed us the Serpent that we saw last week. A quick, nippy machine that repeatedly tossed Tough as Nails high into the air until it eventually landed the all-important out-of-the-arena flip. With Tough as Nails never really getting a good grab, this fight was pretty one-sided, but was still an entertaining watch nonetheless.
Yeah, so you saw a decent showing from both machines here, but a bit more I'd say on Serpent's side. Serpent was chaining multiple flips very effectively in that match, and eventually flipping Tough as Nails out of the arena. A similar effect to Mundo, I'd have to say, and I'd have to say this fight definitely was a mismatch for Tough as Nails. Tough as Nails is just too, I want to say, monster trucky in terms of design, and Serpent's too low, too slippery. Both robots are on a similar record of 2-2, but with completely different points, of Serpent being on 33 and Tough as Nails being on 19. Maybe Tex and Tough as Nails need to look into getting more knockouts if they want to stay in.
And then we saw Skynet, fresh from its victory against Serpent, face Akira, but not for very long. We got yet another double knockout. We're not entirely sure how, but one single hit not only destroyed Skynet's drive, but Akira found itself stuck for the 4th time in 4 fights. That's something Akira really needs to sort out, but at least this time it didn't cost it a victory.
It was absolutely a high-stakes matchup with both bots only at 1 win. Both of them are in serious danger and needed to give some strong performances if they wanted to survive. The numbers don't lie, and we have to wonder if Skynet's win to Serpent was just a fluke. Either way, if it can't do better, then that spells disaster for Crystal. We move on to the Sapphire group next with Leviathan facing Howler, so stay tuned.
First fight at the Sapphire group, we have in the red square Leviathan with a heavier blade this time around against Howler. Leviathan looking to score its first win, hopefully against the Crusher here, who has proven itself so far to be a bit of a lackluster Crusher, I have to say.
We've seen it have one good bite against Jokester last week, but outside of that, it hasn't really been able to use that to too good effect. That heavier bar on Leviathan definitely looking more deadly than the Keyblade we've seen up to this point, and the longer and the length of it giving it a much better reach as well.
Howler getting a few crushes in there, but definitely letting that spinner get up to speed. Definitely not.
Oh my god, a perfect snipe of that linkage on the head, and it goes flying right at our camera.
He's been entirely beheaded, and now Howler has to hope for the best and play the control game here against Leviathan.
Flip Leviathan over.
Who so far has proven itself to be, I suppose, somewhat easy to tip over. But
we can see some of the internals here. And that's a very nice shot. Howler goes one way, Leviathan flips itself!
Around, tossing itself everywhere, hopefully just stay in the arena. Not
and it's landed upside down!
Can it get itself back up? Howler, I think.
Oh, yes it can!
Oh my word!
That's the first time we've seen it so bright, yes!
And I think
somehow
that might be dashing.
Its internals spilling out all over the floor. Leviathan spinning out of control again. Caught on the drums, but pinballing away!
And oh my word! I have to say that Leviathan definitely not going to win any points on control. And knocking over Howler, and I think Howler,
that's it.
That might be it!
Howler is not self-righting from that, and Leviathan is leaving it. And I have to say, after 2 weeks, Leviathan's shuffler system finally looks tuned in, and is moving at a very scary speed.
Fantastic work there, and almost surgical in the power of Leviathan there. That heavier blade might be a good choice in the future.
Yes, Leviathan definitely looking considerably more deadly out the gate here. Getting a really good snipe on that head, and just delivering more and more damage until it eventually flipped Howler over and left it unable to do anything. And fight 2 of the week, we see the Egg Beater of Electromotivation fight against AJ Allmanflinger, using its forks and getting a very good flip out of the opening here. Those forks definitely appear to be quite low.
knocking away one of Electromotivation's forks from the full damage alone. A good flip there, and definitely going to affect the wedging ability of Electromotivation in the future, though we know that that wedge is very low and has helped Electromotivation.
Floor Flipper having a bit of fun there as well. Oh, and there go two of the forks on that left side of the bot.
Ooh, both robots getting stuck a bit.
Ramrod's having a few problems with the arena. And AJ misses a flip.
Missed flip there, Shane getting stuck on the Ramrods instead, leaving Electromotivation to get behind.
Not quite able to capitalise, but neither is AJ on that driving error of Electro.
Oh, not wanting to reverse there. That's a poor move by AJ. As AJ trying to get slipping. Just
another
missing
misfire.
it again.
AJ is getting so close with each of these flips. They're just not enough, and getting the base plate cut up by the saws is not what you want.
I have to say, the driving of this match has been a bit poor so far. Hopefully...
Oh, there's a much better hit. AJ going right up the Electromotivation wedge there.
I don't think it's a good idea for AJ to attack from the front anymore. Those forks, I don't think are going to help Electromotivation.
Right across the arena, another misfire. Rob is going to be so unlucky at this point. It's so unfortunate. All these flips just missing out.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't think
a
it's
bonk
that
from the hammer.
I don't think that wedge is getting any kind of wedging potential anymore, as it's now pinned up against the wall. Oh, dear!
And AJ is smoking and on fire. That hit must have got the battery.
That's the battery. Oh my word, what a devastating blow. We've not seen this yet in Foxii Fighters. And Electromotivation has just struck on AJ Orbanflinger and has shocked it to oblivion. A destructive knockout there for Electromotivation, showing to us all what a scary egg beater it is.
AJ had that one flip out of the gate, but since then it just couldn't get under, couldn't get a flip, and it ended up in a smoking mess. Hopefully Rob can get it repaired. We'll definitely be talking to him later about this.
And on to fight 3 of the Sapphire group in the red square, Stardust in the blue square. Hu Wang, both robots showing potential in this group so far, and hopefully trying to get another win to get themselves up in the ranks. Hu Wang doing a little dance in the corner there, and getting
an amazing flip from Stardust! Oh, I thought it was going to bounce right out the arena there!
Well, it's going to be a one and done situation there, but a fantastic shot from the hydraulic flipper there of Stardust.
We know the disadvantage of a hydraulic is that it cannot chain flips like we have seen some of the gas-powered flippers do. But with flips that powerful, does it need to?
I wouldn't say so, but now, right, it's gotten itself a bit stuck on its own part and letting itself be attacked by Hu Wang.
Oh, a little bit of a weaker toss there, but even then, still very impressive. That egg beater damaging the flipper lip, though.
Hu Wang trying to get something, and Stardust getting itself free.
Hu Wang seems to almost be forgetting that you need to let the spinner spin up before trying to go in for an attack.
Well, it did so there, and I loved how Stardust flipped the Hu Wang with its own robot. It's a very interesting attack there, and poor driving for Hu Wang, but Hu Wang, of course, coming back.
I will say, we are yet to see that self-righter on the back of Hu Wang actually work. So this fight might be a good shot for them to test if it actually can self-right the robot. And as I've been talking about this, there we go!
There we go! Oh, what a great coincidence. Yeah, we can see it working there, and I have to say, it hadn't needed to do so because the spinner's been very helpful in tossing it back over, despite it pinging itself around. Another explosive flip there from Stardust.
We've definitely had time to charge up a flip since that last one, and there's another one. Probably only about half power, but still a very impressive flip. And if you look in the corner under our hammer there, Hua must have landed on one of our wall spikes, and it ripped it off the wall.
Although, I don't think Stardust is doing so well anymore, as the front wedge of Stardust, the one that was very important, feeding stuff onto the flipper, is no longer there, and it's now having to reduce to pushing and wedging. Hopefully he can get Hu Wang into... Yeah, hopefully he can get itself into really has to focus on Hu Wang and push it into a wall and ride up onto the flipper in order to actually do something, which it can do now!
It's not an Uta! The spinner of Huo saving it there.
That spinner has been very helpful in just keeping it working, and it's ripped off the entire flipper, but he's not moving anymore!
Can it self-right? Yes, it
Yes,
can.
it can.
That's the
It's still
first
no
proper test we've seen of that self-righteous. The
Well,
floor
that
flipper
was-
did intervene last time.
Yeah, though that was some very successful and very important damage there, as it's impaired the functionality of Stardust very heavily, though Stardust has shown itself to be quite the lower wedge in this battle so far, though it needs to be careful with the debris now lining the floor as we get to the final 5
Seems to have
seconds.
hooked some debris in that little indent that Flipper Gap has left.
Yeah, I have to say that, this fight ends. I'm not sure who this is going to go to. My money's in Stardust, but that was like an incredible battle.
This was a very good battle between the two robots. And as it has gone to our judges, and they have awarded it as a very close 7-5 decision in favour of Huo Wang.
Wow! Wow, I wasn't expecting that. I mean, I thought that Stardust would get the win there, but I can see it. Destroying the weapon was a very impactful part of that fight.
And fight 4 of the Sapphire group, we see the punching spinner of Jokester against the clamping menace that is Abyss.
Abyss has been a difficult robot to fight and has been undefeated so far in these battles, as Jokester hoping to score its next win, though, against Abyss, and since its record, I think it's got an uphill battle against it so far.
Although Jokester's chopsticks, as they are, did seem to be getting underneath Abyss's front wedge here, which is something we haven't seen yet. And as of last week, when it got under electromotivation pretty consistently, we know they are very low to the ground.
Yes, this may be the deciding factor here in this match, as both robots are quite reliant on getting underneath and getting the robots in a difficult position to manipulate them. And Abyss here is trying to find a good angle really against Jokester, but it's only finding wedgelets. Oh, had a chance there, but no purchase, and a piece of it has already been knocked off, probably from the
And
combined
as we have
efforts.
seen last week, and in week 1 against Huo Wang and AJ Ullman Flinger, Abyss only needed one grab, so I don't count it out until the fight is over.
Yes, I do have to agree. And there we go, nice little run there by Jokester, putting it towards the corner. Abyss
Ooh,
getting
Abyss
stuck
on
inside
the
there.
spikes, trying to wiggle itself free.
Oh, this would be quite ironic if it gets knocked out from being stuck here on the spikes, just like many other times before. The Abyss
Jokester
wins.
luring, waiting for it to get off. I think Grizz did learn from last week, though, to not free your opponents after getting stuck in the Howler fight, after freeing Howler, ironically enough.
Yes, in this kind of arena, you can't give mercy, especially when every win counts. Right now, Jokester getting underneath once again, pushing a bit.
Oh, there's a
toss
brilliant
over.
suplex! One of the chopsticks gone off the front.
Fantastic reversal there by Abyss, and a good lift there, but Jokester, of course, coming back and smacking the behind of Abyss. Both robots looking to try and get their next big hit there. And I have to say, Jokester, for me, is more of a robot that wins through attrition, just hitting you with small hits and over time breaking you down rather than those
Knocks
big,
you out with
massive
1,000
blows.
cuts as opposed to one big hit that we saw from Huo in the last match.
And it's massively aggressive. It's so aggressive. It's definitely the most important thing you need to have when it coming to Foxii Fighters. If you're not being aggressive, you're not going to get the win. So right now, we are seeing a lot of aggression from Jokester, and Abyss, I think, he's trying to keep up, but Jokester's faster and a lot more nippy in my eyes in this battle.
Abyss, despite being the control bot, seems to have just been out-controlled. It's ironic that we can call the spinner the control bot in this match, but Jokester definitely just seems to have more control.
Those forks have definitely helped them out, and despite them being paper thin, they are as paper thin as they need to be. Probably against a horizontal spinner, they wouldn't work, but against Abyss, it is curtains right now as we head into the final.
The sword's popping up.
And there we go. I, for one, think that Jokester has this one in the bag, and Abyss probably will see its first defeat now.
And you are correct, and our judges apparently saw that as quite a close match, as once again we have another 7-5, but going in favour of Jokester, meaning Abyss has met defeat for the first time this event.
I wouldn't call that close, but that is fair enough. Good on you, Jokester. On to Fight 5 of the Sapphire group. We see in the red square, Howler in the blue square, AJ Winflinger. Both robots have one thing in common. They are both fighting and are looking for a win after losing both their matches earlier today. I suppose that's two things in common, but AJ getting a fantastic flip there, putting Howler into a position he doesn't want to be in. Another fantastic flip there. Ooh.
Rob coming out the gates a lot more aggressive than last time, using the full wedge this time instead of the forks. A missed flip there, but after the 2 spectacular ones we've already seen, you've got to imagine 1 miss can't hurt.
All being flipped over by the floor flipper there, and another decent crush there from Howler. Look at that! Finally, Howler's crusher is getting in and doing something as we see it drag around the arena. Some good control, maybe try and put it into the hazards. Oh, I think it's pierced.
Punctured the top of AJ there, though.
Yes, that is not ideal for AJ as Howler goes in for another attack.
Nearly tossed it out there.
Oh, being tossed twice, once by the AJ, twice by the arena there, and getting stuck on the ramrods. That is not ideal for
AJ capitalizing, flipping it over. Despite being flipped a lot in this match, we haven't seen much use of Howler's self-righter. Oh,
I think we're about to see it now, I think.
Maybe not. Rob looking to get the Uta shot, but doesn't quite. Goes for another one, and again. There's the self-righter on Howler, getting it back into the fray.
Excellent work from AJ there, taking advantage of the hesitation on the self-righter there from Howler. Howler trying to find its next purchase, really, for the wedge there. But it kind of does. I think AJ has this lower wedge of the 2 here. Oh, getting close to crushing them. Oh, flipping again. Getting underneath.
We have seen a lot of flips from AJ here, so going into the final minute, as we almost are, you've got to be wondering how that gas reserve is doing.
Yeah, so I think despite having those weaker flips, I still think he's going to keep it up and keep it aggressive. Howler, once again, getting another nice little crush there, controlling AJ, putting him into the wall.
Quite into play. No, now they are. Definitely puncturing the other side.
You can see the teeth have sunk into that robot there, but it may be superficial.
Fighting through! Oh, and leaving it onto the wall spikes. Can AJ shake itself free? Yes, it can. We won't see a repeat of last week.
Very fortunate for AJ to not get stuck there. I think, yeah, they probably buttered up the backside.
Flipping there and smacking Howler in the teeth.
And, yeah, but unfortunately Howler has great dental care and is taking it on the chin. Another good crush there as it's crawling back a bit in terms of control here and attack. And once more,
into the last 20 seconds with another bite there. This fight is getting quite close. That's a lot of damage there.
Oh, dearie me! Can he get him out?
They've separated. I don't know if you spotted that. There's a little part of AJ stuck on Howler's mouth, but that flip shakes it off. And there's one last flip. What a close fight. I can see this one going either way.
I have to say, in terms of that battle, while AJ was definitely controlling and pushing around there, I think Howler crawled back a bit at the end there. Yeah, I don't know what to call it. I think that left front wheel might be disabled from that attack, but who knows?
Our judges know, and on the third 7-5, AJ Allmanflinger is given the win.
A fair judgment there, I have to say. Commiserations to Howler for putting on a brave fight, but AJ definitely proved itself to be the winner.
And now we have the battle between the Egg Beaters. Electromotivation in red, Hua Wang in the blue square. Kind of ironic considering their colour schemes. But let's see which Egg Beater will come out on top, and looking at that, it's going to be Electro.
And Hua Wang already scrambling himself by hitting the wall. And
Hua Wang's back panel has come off from that first impact, and the battery is exposed. That's, considering what we saw earlier from Electro, could we see another battery snipe happen here?
Oh, who knows? I have to say, right now, out of the 2 robots, Electromotivation is a lot more controlled. Hua Wang is more like a whirling dervish, a pinball in this arena, but getting a nice good shot there on the side.
A little bit of that wheel guard off.
Oh, looking in from the shot there. I have to say, out of the 2 robots, I think that Hua Wang's a lot more nimble, a lot more agile, and Electromotivation is a big square. And taking
one of the wheels! That's going to hinder Electro's control.
Yeah, like I said, I have to say, out of the 2 robots, I think that Electromotivation is not as nimble, and Hua Wang can definitely sort of get around and hit it in areas that it doesn't want to be. Electromotivation trying to set itself free with the Shremek, but getting itself in a worse position to get stuck on the spike
on one of the wall spikes. Hua Wang spinning up that weapon, ready to hit in case Electro can break free.
I think the Shremek might
there we go, it's free.
Does.
And Hua straight in pursuit.
Good recovery there with the Shremek from Electromotivation, definitely getting use out of it there, but now it has to try and win underneath.
I've just spotted one of Hua's forks is missing. I'm not sure when that happened. There it goes. pinballing
so I'm
around.
putting
2 more
the forward
forks
there.
flying off as well. All 3 of the forks on that one side are gone now.
Oh, another wedge off there. These 2 robots definitely have low wedges, but it depends on who's going to get underneath.
Huo seems to be out-pushing consistently now. I imagine the missing wheel on Electro cannot be helping it in that department.
And one of its wedgelets, of course, has fallen off. Huang. Oh, is it stuck a bit there? No, it's fine. It's
No,
all
it wasn't
good.
stuck. One of the wedgelets off Electro has gone now. Both have lost half of their wedgelets.
Oh, and Huang, of course, pushing back again. I don't quite. I have to say, well, Electro Innovation don't have the lower wedge. It's not as low as I expected. I think Huang's
Backing
lower
up
now
into
at this
the
point.
drums, trying to chip away at that other back tyre. You can
Taking
see
off
it's
a wedgelet.
damaged. And
Yeah.
Huo Wang is down to... Electromotivation even now is down to just the solid wedge. Those wedgelets have been tore off.
Yeah, and I think that damage from the drum to the wheel has caused Electromotivation's drive to be a bit more lackluster. You can kind of tell by the way it's moving.
Ooh,
The strike
another
on the
little shot
side
there.
there. Though Electromotivation is still being aggressive, still kicking out.
Good push
no!
there, flipping it over.
Fantastic
The first
blow.
use of Electromotivation, Shremek, as well as in all previous fights. The weapon or our floor flipper has bounced it back over.
As we come into the final seconds here, both robots, of course, facing each other, bearing each other down. The next shot
Another
could
wedge lock.
decide the match.
Who pushes again, pitting it against
Trying to
the
get another
wall.
hit. I have to say, though, despite this, Huang definitely seems in control of the match so far, pushing Electromotivation up against the wall. Can we get any kind of big thing in the end? No,
Ooh,
we
and the
can't.
two bots separate. For having an exposed battery for that entire fight, you've got to imagine Swin was panicking behind the wheel of Huo. But he drove that very, very well as we take it
Yes.
to our judges.
I definitely think so. With Electromotivation, I think they were a scary opponent for Huang, but as the fight continued going on, as we saw it go to the distance and damage start racking up, I think Huang had a lot more stamina and a lot more resilience than it did with Electromotivation.
And our judges have agreed with us and have awarded this decision to Huo Wang on a 9-4.
Yes, a very good win there for Huang. A good showing, of course, from Electromotivation nonetheless.
Welcome back to the studio. You've probably just been watching and enjoying those Sapphire Group battles. You haven't? What are you doing? Go back and watch them. There's spoilers ahead. And what a spoiler we begin with. Leviathan's first win of the event, and a strong one at that. Its shuffler system is finally working, and it's finally demonstrated the ability to self-right. Is it too little too late? It's great to see a strong performance at last, nevertheless.
Yes, that fight was absolutely explosive, where we saw Howler once again get beheaded and have their remains strewn across the arena by the most powerful spinner we have in the entire competition. Perhaps then we need to rely on that heavier bar a lot more, since it definitely seemed to help out and change the course of the battle in their favour.
Our second fight was equally explosive. This was a phenomenal back and forth between a powerful egg beater and a dominant flipper. And unfortunately, one hit in the wrong place left AJ Allmanflinger a smoking, flaming mess. Unfortunate to see, but Electromotivation is looking to be durable and unstoppable.
Yeah, having seen how far Botbuster has evolved Electromotivation was no doubt intimidating. However, I think we both put up a good fight, and it came down to driver error and a bit of bad luck that ended the fight.
On to Huang versus Stardust, a very close fight between two robots that have proven themselves to be very strong in their group so far. Stardust Flipper was working as well as it did against Jokester, being explosive and effective in its power, tossing around Huang, and honestly, I'd just love to see Huang bounce around the arena like a bloody pinball. It was fantastic seeing that.
Once again, as we talked about earlier, Stardust showed itself to be a bit of a glass cannon, but it did survive the full battle this time around. In fact, the judges felt that Stardust was on top for the first minute, but Huo Wang turned it around and won the second and final 2 minutes, despite a near miss with the Uta Zone. Ultimately, Stardust ended its altercation with Huo Wang, missing its flipper, and that will also have counted against it in the eyes of the judges.
Another match that none of us expected the results of. Jokester's win over Abyss was a great surprise and showed off the punching spinner very well. Abyss's difficulty to grab onto Jokester was what caught it out in the end though.
Yeah, this fight really made me see that Jokester is not a bot to be underestimated, as it proved to be durable and reliable. That weapon has some very good power to it, and the only real weakness I can point out is the lack of bite that the weapon seems to have. Aside from that, Jokester is a well-rounded bot that I could imagine going far into the tournament.
On to the penultimate fight of this group, where we saw AJ Allmanflinger fight Howler, and I have to say this was a very close match. Both robots proved themselves in this match up to the nth degree, really, with AJ getting some phenomenal flips up against Howler, and Howler getting some actually decent and great crushes in comparison to the previous matches where we've barely seen them grab onto much. Howler really needs to bring something special to the table now at this point, because if it doesn't start picking up a few wins, it's definitely going to get eliminated.
Typically, a close judge's decision can be seen as controversial. However, in this instance, I think the exact opposite. I don't think the judges could have got this wrong. There's a very clear case for both of these robots, and it was a very good fight from both sides. Howler had some good damage, AJ had the control, and attack intent seemed mostly equal throughout, with both robots having their moments.
In the final fight of the Sapphire group, we saw Huo Wang taking on Electro Motivation, and it was a great fight to see. Two egg beaters taking on one another was a curious combination, but it came down to Huo's superior weapon and the longer reach that it has over Electro.
We are now joined by Swin, the builder of the impressive-looking egg beater Huo Wang. And after 3 back-to-back wins against Leviathan, Electromotivation, and Stardust, are you feeling confident in your chances of making the heat brackets?
Yeah, I am. I'm very happy with my back-to-back wins considering I'm driving with a sprained elbow. So everything seems to be going wrong, but everything seems to be going right at the same time.
That is both bad and good to hear. So,
yeah.
I'm glad it's going well for you. The one fight in particular I wanted to ask a bit more about is the fight you had against Electromotivation. As you're both egg beaters and have sort of similar weapons, what do you think gave you the edge in this fight?
So I think it was really just like focusing and like doubling down on like being able to push Electromotivation about the ring. I think I had more drive power and quite possibly the better wedge. So I think that really gave me the edge in that battle.
I see. And with Howler, Jokester, and AJ Allmanflinger being the 3 bots you had to fight in the group, are there any of these that you are particularly looking forward to?
Looking forward to taking on Howler, because I remember fighting in, I think it was This Is Fighting Robots, and it was really interesting to fight it, and it was a really good battle between both of us, so I'm excited to fight it again.
Alright, it's been good catching up with you. I wish yourself and Huo luck for the rest of the event. I hope it goes well for you.
Thank you.
My prediction turned out to be wrong, but it was a solid fight between these two very well-matched competitors. Not a lot of damage to write home about, but the most notable damage was almost certainly Electromotivation losing that wheel. If only it had been Omnidrive. Like one of the robots in our first Topaz group fight, Super Esports, as it also looks to prove my prediction wrong against a robot which has become a common fixture in Roblox Robot Combat. Demon Spirit. Let's see how they get on.
Fight 1 of the Topaz group, we have in the red square Demon Spirit, and in the blue square Super Esports. Demon Spirit, a tenacious flipper against the revolutionary mechanism using Super Esports. I'm not sure who's going to win this one. I'm really up in the air about it, but
This is damage versus defense, really. We saw in its first fight, Demon Spirit is an absolute brick of a machine, managing to take the fight to Shout, even when it had no wedge and was struggling to drive.
even when it's being ripped apart, it is just pushing itself to overcome its opponent. I've known Double to be a driver to drive his robots against his opponent, even if there is one wheel remaining. But right now, we are seeing Super Esports just drive Demon Spirit around on top of it and control it in this fight.
Almost
Definitely
doing tennis with the two sets of drums, bouncing it back and forth between the two.
Doing as its designs intended. Oh, flipped up against the wall a bit there, and
beach on one of the spikes.
Yes, it is.
Demon Spirit catching itself on Super Esports forks.
Can Super Esports get free? Yes, it can.
Tearing a wall spike off.
Goodness me, we'll have to bill the driver later for that.
Yes, I'll bill myself.
Yeah, bill yourself. Yeah, get your credit card out now.
Oh no.
We see these two robots getting ready to wedge underneath and
the floor flipper
and
the drive power of Demon Spirit wedging Super Esports against the wall.
You didn't even have to utilise the flipper at all on that one. Just the sheer force of that machine was enough to flip it over. Wow, I didn't realise he was pegged down for a full body flipper design, but fantastic win there from Demon Spirit. Commiserations, of course, to you, Foxy.
Yes, as I said in the opening of this match, this was damage versus defense, and defense just took the win here. Out-controlled, flipped over without the use of the flipper, and beached against the wall. And now, fight 2. We have Lemon in the red square, Xiao in the blue square. Interestingly enough, not using that anti-horizontal spinner wedge against what is probably the most deadly-looking horizontal in the field.
Bang!
Oh. And that might be it!
Yeah, that's it. He's got no Shremek, that's it. Yeah.
Xiao Shilong crawling along the floor, Lemon still spinning, Lemon still driving, and that's a knockout. I was expecting a much better fight between two of the top bots in the field here, but that's just unfortunate for Prime.
On to fight 3 of the Topaz group. In the red square, we have two-headed Death Penguin still looking for a win up against Wave Runner, who is 1-1, but it's proven itself to be quite the controlling brick of a machine, I have to say.
Yes, we saw it take down Xiao last week, but we haven't seen anything massively impressive since right now from two-headed Death Penguin getting a nice push across the arena.
It was definitely a good run. Hopefully we get to see more of that again, but I have to say, I have noticed a flaw in the design of two-headed Death Penguin. It seems to be too back heavy and just lifts itself up every time it goes forward. Not an ideal thing you want to have for a wedging design.
Those big wings do a very good job at keeping bots in front of them, but when your wedge isn't up to par, that can't really help that much. Over and out! The front hinge design of Wave Runner just rolling two-headed Death Penguin over that arena wall and into our Uta zone.
I think that the size of two-headed Death Penguin played against itself in this match, since Wave Runner was taking advantage of all those things to lift, and definitely lifted it over several times and out of the arena because of its size.
And now, fight 4. We see Quake in the blue square using its vertical spinner for the first time, and Barracuda, the angled horizontal, starting in the red square. Ironically enough, the Burt doing the box rush here, as Barracuda sits against the wall a little bit before driving away and getting its own blade up to speed.
Yes, I have to say, Quake's wedge has proven itself to be quite difficult to break against horizontal spinners. In the Lemon fight, it took a long time to actually be ripped off, so maybe we'll see the same here in Barracuda with enough deflex, but right now, in terms of my perspective, I don't really see how that weapon can come into play in that battle. I think the Vert's way too high for that type of wedge.
Yes, we did see last week, and now this week as well. The Quake's wedge design is very good at deflecting the horizontal spinners in the field, and is doing so here very effectively, but it's struggling to get its own weapon into play.
Yes, Barracuda, of course. Oh, I think that took a
sniping
wheel
one of the
there.
front wheels there.
A good shot there from Barracuda. Burning away
Good deflect
slowly.
there.
Yes, I think really Quake needs to bank on some kind of deflect, because otherwise Barracuda's just going to keep ripping off parts just like that. I don't know how long the wedge will last up against the onslaught of Barracuda. Hopefully the weapon can come into play at some point soon, just like that!
And tossing Barracuda onto its spinner, and we saw last week that it does not have the power to self-right. Quake is leaving it alone just enough for a count-out to start, and unless that floor flipper fires, Barracuda is done for.
No, I think that is it, Foxy. Oh, just about flipping there at that point, but not enough. Yeah, as you said, and as I said earlier, a Shremek, I think, really needs to be important and needs to be utilised in this kind of match, because if you don't have a Shremek, then being tipped over once at all at any point could spell curtains for you. On to fight 5 of the Topaz group, we see my robot Lemon in the red square facing up against Demon Spirit, a robot that I am quite concerned about fighting, but hopefully I come out on top of this battle here as I'm flipped over with Lemon, tossed over there.
The floor flipper getting payback for you!
Demon Spirit also flipping over, and you can see that Demon Spirit is utilising the anti-horizontal spinner configuration there.
Floor flipper fires again. They do not seem to be liking Demon Spirit this match.
He's got less reach with his flipper after all, but that wedge is definitely going to come into handy in this battle as Lemon is trying
and
to...
again!
Oh, he's flipped over! Oh no!
Oh my god!
No!
What a driving error from Double here! tossing himself out of the arena!
What a terrible oopsie. This hurt my heart when I saw it live, and I have to say it hurts my heart to see it again. I can't believe it. I was expecting a lot more of a slobber knocker of a battle there, but... Oh, double, you silly sausage.
The thing that has threatened Lemon the most so far, just so easily thrown out the arena. And our final fight of the night, we see Two-Headed Death Penguin back in the arena, facing off against Xiao. Both of these robots coming up against a loss, and Xiao Shilong is using its pontoon setup this time around, knocking Two-Headed onto its back early.
Yeah, I think Xiao has a much better chance of winning this fight than it did with Lemon there. I think it was a toss-up either way in the Lemon fight, but right now I think Two-Headed Death Penguin is at
the wing getting underneath and ramming Xiao into the drums here.
But at the exact same time, it's been ripping off its own wing when it's striking the drum. I mean, so far, Two-Headed Death Penguin has done more damage to itself than Xiao has done to it. It's... Yeah, like I said, I don't...
Not the best scenario to be in.
No, right now I don't think that...
there's a little hit.
More wings. Yeah, I don't think that Two-Headed Death Penguin has much of a chance against Xiao here. Xiao has proven itself to be a fantastic machine, provided it stays on its wheels no matter. Oh my word!
We're seeing a lot more patient driving from Xiao here. Do you think that Prime is a little bit wary after the unfortunate end to the Lemon fight from earlier?
Yes, I think I'd probably be a lot more careful when it comes to...
getting caught up on the floor there. Those pontoons
they don't seem
very low to the ground.
Entirely...
the floor's
flipped over there. Oh, you don't want to get tipped over there, Prime. Especially against Two-Headed Death Penguin, who is so far proven itself to be very lackluster in Foxii Fighters so far, being lifted over by the vert there.
It's chipping away at it. The back panel taking a powerful shot, nearly getting ripped off in one.
If you ask me, I think this is only a matter of time before we're going to be seeing massive pieces fly off.
We're into the second half of the match now, and Xiao gets a clip on one of the wheels, but it doesn't seem to have hurt how Two-Headed is driving too badly. He's trying to get a few pecks in. Spinning up and punting it over the wall and out.
And that's our last hit of the night there. A secure win for Xiao in my eyes since the beginning there. I had no doubt that Xiao was going to win that fight. I'd say commiserations to Two-Headed Death Penguin, but I think you should pack your bags now.
Yes, Two-Headed has unfortunately not seen much, if any, success in this event so far. Maybe it can still have a chance at turning things around, but I don't have much hope for it.
Welcome back to the panel for a look through the Topaz group. This match between Super Esports and Demon Spirit was very one-sided, which leads up to the question on whether or not Esports' drums were in full working order. It was the opposite story though for Demon Spirit, as its flipper was incredibly strong in this match.
This wasn't my proudest fight. I knew right from the start of the match I was fighting a losing battle. I pretty much went into the fight weaponless, as my drums were having a lot of trouble spinning up, so I wasn't quite able to deal the same damage that I did in previous weeks. I'm going to be taking a good look over the full bot, and I'll have it dialed in ready for next week. Even so, still a good performance from Double, and I'm looking forward to seeing more from Demon Spirit.
Next, we saw the event's two big hitters, Lemon and Xiaoxilong, in a highly anticipated battle. But it's safe to say that their meeting turned out to be rather underwhelming. It lasted just 6 seconds before the decisive blow, one of the shortest battles we've had, and neither robot left the arena as a bag of parts. In fact, they were both fully intact, which no one would have expected. It's just a shame for Xiaoxilong that it landed the way it did. We definitely did not see the best of Xiaoxilong there. I feel there was a lot of luck on Lemon's side, and Prime will be looking back at that fight and wondering what could have been had Lemon been approached differently.
I can only assume why that happened was that when Prime decided to go for that configuration, he wanted a much more reach on me. As he came to attack me to try and get that reach in and hit me first, he was coming at me from an angle that was more away from Lemon than they were towards, and because of that, Lemon was able to strike Xiaoxilong first, and the force of the vert of Xiaoxilong pretty much was a perfect storm that flipped it over and proved to all of us once again why you should have a Shremek.
Our third fight of the week was Two-Headed Death Penguin and Wave Runner, and this went about as expected. Two-Headed showed a tiny bit of potential early, but then was just driven around the arena until it was guided out. Another strong win from Wave Runner, who has turned their series around since that early loss to Barracuda.
It was over quickly for Two-Headed Death Penguin as it turned out, but Wave Runner is starting to look very strong in the Topaz group. It's working its way up the standings as the weeks go by, it's a solid control bot and a serious contender potentially going forward.
After that, we saw Quake taking on Barracuda, and this was the first time we got to see Quake's vertical spinner in action. But considering how this fight went for Quake, the spinner might need to have some work done to it, after only getting one hit in. Could the wedge shape be hurting it?
This was a very peculiar fight, considering the outcome. Barracuda was doing almost all the work, and still losing. Quake's wedge was doing a very good job deflecting Barracuda's spinner, but was almost appearing to push Barracuda away from its own weapon. If we see the vertical spinner again, it'll be interesting to see if that weapon can get a bit more engagement. I am here with Quake's builder Kilo, who currently sits at a very respectable 2-2 record after a good win today against Barracuda. We've now seen all three weapons in Quake's arsenal, and they do all look very strong. How come your choice for tonight's fight was the vertical spinner?
I went for the vertical spinner configuration because I noticed Barracuda cannot self-right, and I knew I just needed one good hit to flip him over.
Yes, and you certainly got it. It was a very nice hit to see towards the end of that fight. And looking at the rest of your group, you are yet to fight Wave Runner, Demon Spirit, and Xiao Shilong. Are there any of these robots that you're looking forward to fighting?
I'm really looking forward to fighting Wave Runner. I've fought the Builder Sky and a few other events, so it'll be nice to see that again.
Yes, it'll be good to have another rematch here in this arena. And a final question for you. Being at 2-2, how do you feel about your chances at getting into the heat bracket at the end of this phase?
I think I have a decent chance of getting in. I just have to perform well for the rest of my fights, and I think I'll be good.
Alright, it's been good catching up with you. I wish yourself and Quake the best of luck going forward. Thank you for your time.
Now on to my second fight of the night, where we had Lemon face up against Demon Spirit, and I have to say, what a shocker double! Goodness gracious me! I was scared of you in that match, I really was. Demon Spirit had the anti-horizontal configuration, but instead of getting a proper, slugfest, and instead of getting a proper match, you decided to throw yourself out the arena. I'm speechless. I'm kind of upset, really, because I wasn't expecting a really good fight, but you have to be careful with your driving, because poor control can not only mark you down in the judges, but it can spell disaster and knock you out just like that.
There's no doubting that this was a very different situation for Demon Spirit than that of Super Esports from earlier. After this match, you have to wonder though, can anyone beat Lemon?
None of us believed that Xiao Shilong had suddenly lost its potential overnight after its battle with Lemon, so we didn't need any confirmation that it hadn't, but we got it here. Okay, Two-Headed Death Penguin was never going to give it the hardest battle of its career, but if there was any damage done to Prime's confidence after the Lemon incident, then a win at the end of the week will mend it. I have to say though, I'm surprised this battle ended out of the arena, but evidence that Xiao Shilong's weapon is just as good as it's always been.
After seeing the unfortunate loss from earlier from Xiao, it's fantastic to see them back in full form, albeit against a arguably weaker opponent. Xiao Shilong tore apart Two-Headed Death Penguin and is making a strong comeback after a couple of unfortunate losses. Despite being an interesting design, Two-Headed Death Penguin has so many inherent design flaws, and I think its weapons are just so ineffective. I don't think it has any more chances of winning in this tournament. Though if Skynet can come back, maybe we'll see Two-Headed Death Penguin do the same.
And that concludes our week. All that's left to do now is to go over the group standings, and of course we'll be doing it in the same order as last week. So, over to Black Hat with the first of our groups.
Let's take a look at the Ruby group records for week 3. Up at the top of the board, both with 34 points and a 3-1 record, Neola is in the lead with Terabyte behind. Neola leading the field as it beat Terabyte earlier. In third place we have Counterpoint, sitting at 32 points and a 3-1 record. Fourth place goes to Silly Goose with 30 points and a 2-3 record. Cerberus is in fifth, 24 points and a 2-2 record. Sixth place has Game Over with 24 points as well at a 1-3 record. And Avalanche sits in seventh with 19 points and a 2-2 record. Last place is Burnout with 14 points and an 0-3 record.
On to the Emerald Group's records for Week 3. And in first place, of course, we have Mundo with 37 points and a 3-1 record, showing how dominant they can be so far in this competition and in this group. In second place, of course, we have Soundwave at 34 points and a 3-0 record, undefeated so far. In third place, we have Serpent, just behind Soundwave from 1 point less with 33 points and a 2-2 record. In fourth place, Truncator with only 2 points behind Serpent at 31 with a 3-1 record. In fifth place at 24 points and a 1-4 record, it is Skynet. In sixth place, Tough as Nails on 2-2 with 19 points. They definitely need to get some knockouts at the stage. In seventh place, tying with Tough as Nails, is Gosling. 19 points and a 1-3 record. And finally, unfortunately and unluckily, in eighth and the last place in this group, we have a Kira with 15 points and a 1-3 record.
And now, onto the Sapphire Group records at the end of the third week. At the top of the group, we have Electromotivation on 40 points and a respectable 3-2 record. Abyss is finally overtaken and drops down into second, still looking strong with 36 points and a 3-1 record. In third place, we have Huo Wang, who has really turned it around since that loss in the first week. They have a 3-1 record and 32 points. In fourth place, we have AJ Ormanflinger, sitting at 2-2 with 25 points. And coming in 2 points below them, we have Jokester at 23 points and a 2-2 record. Stardust has fallen down even further this week, moving into 6th place at 20 points and a 1-2 record. And still at the bottom of the group, at risk of elimination, we have Howler in 7th at 20 points and 1-3, and Leviathan in 8th, picking up its first win, but still at 17 points and a 1-3 record.
And finally onto the Topaz Group standings, and there's no real surprise who we see at the top. 49 points, 4 wins so far, not a single loss. Lemon and the robot that it most recently defeated in second place on 36 points, Xiao Shilong, who's got 2 losses at the moment, which is a bit of a surprise, but I can see it recovering as we go forward. Bit of a gap of 6 points back to third place, where we find Demon Spirit, 2 wins and 2 losses. It's all a little bit close in this part of the standings. Fourth place, just 1 point behind, we find Quake, also on 2 wins and 2 losses. A robot which has performed well this week in Wave Runner finds itself in 5th place, 28 points, and only 1 loss to its name, but looking to add some more wins to the 2 it has already. And another point back, in 6th place on 27 points, is Super Esports, and they'll definitely be hoping to move further up the standings next week. However, it's not so close when we come to the bottom 2 in the standings. In 7th place with just 1 win and 3 losses, it's Baratuda, 14 points. But in 8th with 8 points, and that's the lowest number of points scored at this point in the event, it's Two-Headed Death Penguin.
And that concludes Week 3 of the Round Robin. I do hope you enjoyed all our fights, and Week 4 will surely provide more entertainment and definitely shape up more of the standings and potentially give us more insight on the bots. That's been all from me and my co-hosts Black Hat, Redman and Jonatir. Thank you and good night.
This is how I feel when you love of you.